The Wrath of Achilles. Once the Greek army, led by King Agamemnon, besieged the city of Troy, which had been under the control of King Priam. The war had been ongoing for years, with neither side seeming able to gain a decisive victory. Among the Greek heroes was Achilles, the greatest warrior, renowned for his strength, courage, and near-invincibility. He was the son of the sea nymph Thetis and the mortal king Peleus, and had been dipped into the River Styx as a baby, which made him nearly invulnerable, except for the small spot on his heel where his mother held him. The Greeks were fighting in Troy for one primary reason. The beautiful Helen, wife of King Menelaus, had been taken by Peleus, a prince of Troy. This caused a war between the Greeks and the Trojans, and the Greeks had assembled their greatest warriors to reclaim her. At the start of the Iliad, Achilles and Agamemnon are in conflict. Chryses, a priest of Apollo, had come to the Greek camp to ransom his daughter, Chryseis, who had been captured by the Greeks. However, Agamemnon, the leader of the Greek forces, refused to give her up and insulted Chryses. In anger, the priest prayed to Apollo for vengeance, and soon after the Greeks were struck with a deadly plague. To stop the plague, the Greek seer, Calchas, revealed that Agamemnon must return Chryseis to her father in order to appease Apollo. Reluctantly, Agamemnon agreed, but in a fit of rage, he demanded that Achilles give him his war prize, Briseis, a beautiful captive woman. This insult to Achilles' honor led to his fury. Achilles, enraged by Agamemnon's arrogance, withdrew from the war and refused to fight any longer. He sat by his ships, nursing his wounded pride, and his absence on the battlefield had dire consequences for the Greeks. Without Achilles' mighty presence, the Greeks were pushed back, and the Trojans, led by their hero Hector, began to gain ground. But Achilles' anger was not so easily soothed. He called upon his mother, Thetis, to plead with the god Zeus to help the Trojans. Thetis, in her grief for her son, asked Zeus to send the Greeks into disarray so that they would see the importance of Achilles in the war. Zeus agreed, and the Trojans, with divine favor, began to dominate the battlefield. As the war dragged on, the Greeks began to suffer heavy losses. Patroclus, Achilles' close friend and companion, could not bear to watch his fellow Greeks being slaughtered without the aid of Achilles. In a moment of desperation, Patroclus begged Achilles to lend him his armor and lead the Greeks into battle, hoping to inspire them. Achilles agreed, but only on the condition that Patroclus return after the Trojans were pushed back. Patroclus, wearing Achilles' armor, fought fiercely and drove the Trojans away from the Greek ships. However, in the heat of battle, Hector, the greatest of the Trojan warriors, mistook Patroclus for Achilles and killed him in a duel. When Achilles learned of his friend's death, his grief and rage reached new heights. He vowed to take revenge on Hector and rejoin the war, determined to kill the Trojan prince. Achilles' return to the battlefield was a sight to behold. He fought with a ferocity unmatched by any warrior, and the Greeks' morale soared. He finally confronted Hector outside the gates of Troy. The two heroes faced off in a deadly duel, and after a long battle, Achilles struck Hector with a spear, mortally wounding him. Hector begged Achilles to return his body to his family for a proper funeral, but Achilles refused, desecrating Hector's body by dragging it behind his chariot. The grief of the Trojans, especially that of Hector's parents, King Priam and Queen Hecuba, was immense. They pleaded for his body to be returned so they could honor him in death, but Achilles remained unmoved by their pleas. At this point, King Priam, Hector's father, took a bold step. Disguised as a beggar, he entered the Greek camp at night and made his way to Achilles' tent. With tears in his eyes, Priam knelt before Achilles and begged him to show mercy and return Hector's body. He reminded Achilles that even the mightiest of men would one day die, and that he too would want his own father to receive his body after his death. Achilles, moved by Priam's courage and grief, finally relented. He returned Hector's body to the Trojans and allowed them to mourn. The two men, once enemies, shared a moment of deep humanity, recognizing the shared pain of loss and the futility of war. Achilles would continue to fight and eventually meet his own death at the hands